Now we're going to learn how to create a custom material. First, you're going to need to select or download any images that you would like to use as materials, either from Google or from a website that you may know. Now, after you have in those images, I place some in a folder which include the following images. So there is some leather and some tile, and also some wood and a transparent. So I have some sizes for those. The leather doesn't have any size, so I have a tile that's 24 by 24. So each tile is 12 by 12. And then I have another image that is 48, the overall module. So the tile, each tile is 12 by 12. And I created these boxes. Each box, each of the small boxes are 2 feet by 2 feet by 2 feet, and these are 4 feet by 4 feet by 4. So I'm going to create a basic material. If I use either the plaster or the paint, none of them, as you can see, show me a setting to load an image. So none of them will be useful to load that texture. If I create a new material and I go to more types and then browse, when you open the Rhino library, at the bottom there's a white mat material. If you load that material, that will give you this material that I have in my material editor. Then you will give it a name. Right now it's like white. This is your template material when you're trying to load or create materials that have textures. As you can see on the settings, it has the color. It has glossiness, reflectivity, transparency, and it also gives you the option under textures to load color, transparency, bump, and environment. So this is your template that kind of offers you the most common settings for your materials. So you will use that one. After that, you'll give it a name. Let's say for now, I'm gonna change the color. And I'm gonna say that it's a orange color, or I'm gonna change it to green, let's say. And then I'm going to apply it by the object, so not by the layer, because on the layers I don't have any materials loaded. So I'm gonna apply it by object. So apply it, and then this is going to be, I'm gonna give it a name, tile 24. After that, I'm gonna scroll down under textures. I'm gonna check that box, and then I'm gonna click on these 3 dots right here. This will open up my browser, and then I will need to navigate to the folder where I have those textures saved. From the textures, I have a tile 24. This is my color, and then -B is my bump map. So it's pretty similar, but it's a little bit darker. I'm going to load that one. Right now you can see that it's big. And then I'm going to load as well my bump. So both of them are 100%. You can see how, regardless if I had a color assigned, now the image is overriding the texture. So now if I want to map that material using the technique that I showed you before, which is a long process, is by clicking on the actual name of the image, then I'm going to scroll down, and then from here I'm going to say repeat. I'm going to say it is 2 and 2. And it is not changing the way I want it to be. So I'm going to say it is a box style, so box style, and now it is working. So I'm going to say it's 1 now. Well, that image is a 24 module, so I'm going to say 24 inches, so it's 2 feet and 2 feet. So now if I create a box right there, just to get a sense of it, .3 I'm gonna model a 12 by 12. And you can see now how I'm gonna change this material and assign it. I'm gonna assign a different layer to this so I can distinguish it. Now you can see how when I mapped it, now it works, and now it is a 12 by 12 tile as I want it to be. But it's hard to control where to start or where to end on each tile. And not only that, I also, if I look at the bump, I turn off the texture, and I turn on the bump. I don't see anything with the bump. So now I would need to apply the same process again and map it the same way that I did it with the with my image. So it's a 1 by 1, and it's still it's kind of hard to tell. I'm gonna change this color so maybe that helps me to see it when I go back. And change this to a light color, and still I cannot see the bump. So maybe really subtle in order to like see it. Now if I go down on the repeat, I think it was 2 by 2. Oh, it was 2 feet, but it was a box mapping, so it was a 24 feet or inches, not feet, 2 feet by 2 feet. And it is still like not able to see it. I can review the preview. Maybe the preview allows me to see the floating preview, and let's see if this shows me that. I guess I will have to render in order to see those changes. For now, I guess we mapped the color and then we mapped the bump. I can see here, but I guess I would not see it in my render mode or my display mode. Now, using the same technique, I created a leather material. I mapped it, and then I used the box style mapping, and then I used 1.6 or 1.5 of a foot, which is 1 foot and 6 inches for the color, and then I went back to the settings and I loaded my leather bump, and then again I had to do the mapping again, box style, and then 1 and 6 inches for the mapping, which means I had to do the mapping process twice. And then I look at it, and I didn't see any change on my display style, and in my render mode, if I turn off my color, I can see it in here, the bump. So sometimes it's very hard, it's very subtle to see on the preview, and I also render it, did a draft rendering to compare. So that is without the bump, and that is with the bump. Now if I go back and forth, you can see the difference. But we can see at least from the from render mode, because in order to for the bump to be visible, you need some type of lighting. I guess that's why I don't see it from my custom display. So that is how you create a custom material that is for the tile, and that's for the leather, and that's how I was able to map it using the settings from the actual material. Now I'm going to create another material using the transparent box, or the transparent channel on my material setting. I'm going to load it in my transparent. I'm going to load the 24 checkerboard pattern, black and white. And then after this, I'm going to map it. So because each box was each tile was 12 by 12, so it's a module of 2 feet. And then I'm gonna change this to render mode. And I'm going to apply it to my object. Now you can see how it is yellow, so it's telling Rhino that the white areas is a solid, and I can change this to different colors. Now if you have a color there on the checker pattern that you would like to load, you can also do that. So color, and I'm gonna load this red and blue checkerboard pattern, Now it's not showing still correctly because I need to map it again. Map, click on that one, and then it's a box mapping, and then it is a 2 feet. Okay, and now it's working. So I can see that it is a box, a pattern that's showing a 12 by 12 tile. I can compare that by dragging that box that I model. And now it is working. But again, it's hard for me to tell it to start the module. Like each phase, you can see how this phase is showing the module correctly, but the one at the top and all the faces is not showing the mapping as I want it to be. Now I created a material for wood, and then in this case I'm going to load the wood material, and then by default it seems like he mapped it correctly. In this case is using the mapping channel 1, so that means that the box style will not work, because if I select box style, see how it is different. It's not what I wanted. Now if that's not what you want it to be, you can change the rotation of the mapping. So right now it's 0, but I can change it to be 90, and you can see how that affects the mapping on the texture. So I'm gonna put it back to 0, and then the repeat, if I want a denser repeat, so I'm gonna change that to 2. You can see how each plank gets thinner and thinner, so the module is denser and denser. Now there's a lot of limitations when you use the mapping option in here. And then as I mentioned previously, when it comes to surfaces, U and V is a similar way of creating or the coordinates that we have in the environment that are X, Y, and Z. For surfaces, we have U, V, and N. Now the arrows that are in color blue, red, and purple, those represent the coordinates for or the spatial coordinates. Those coordinates represent Z, Y, and X. Now, as I was mentioning, for mapping materials, there are different coordinates that each surface have, and those are your normals, or the U, which is like either your pink, your green, and your orange arrows. Those represent the UV and coordinates for each material and each surface. You can reveal those coordinates when you select an object and then you type dir. Those arrows represent the coordinates on the surface or on each face. So you can see how I'm moving my mouse, and on that point there's a green, a red, and a white arrow. Again, those are my U, V coordinates. U, V, and N coordinates. If you remember, when we draw when we have a sphere or a single surface, and then we were rebuilding it, it was asking the number of points that we wanted on U and on V. So those UV axes represent the orientation or the direction on the surface and not this spatial coordinates as the X, Y, and Z. So now that we're going to be creating and mapping materials, we will see a reference several times for UV and UV coordinates. Like I will create the new material. And I'm going to, after loaded the bump map, I'm going to apply it, and I can see it right there. If I want to see the bump map, I can see it also right there. And now instead of mapping it using this process of clicking on the texture, getting into the on the bitmap, I'm going to map it using applying a mapping filter to it. And I'm going to add that toolbar. So I'm going to right click in my toolbar, show toolbar, and then I'm going to look for texture mapping. So texture mapping, it will add this toolbar, and I'm going to add this tab. So now I have not applied the material. I didn't do any mapping on the actual material, because now instead of using that technique where you will have to change the repeat on the color and also on the bump, I'm going to apply a mapping. The first one will be apply box mapping, and then so apply box mapping, select the target object. So this is my target object, enter, and then I'm going to say bounding box world, and then cap, yes, because it's a capped object, yes. Mapping channel for box mapping, I'm going to leave it like that and hit enter. And now you can see how it changed the mapping on the color. Now I'm going to turn off my color. I don't see it right here, but I'm going to change it to render mode. And you can see that not only apply that mapping to the color, it also apply it to the bump. And even if I loaded other objects in here, even in the transparent, then it will do the same thing. So when you apply a mapping using the texture mapping, then it's a universal mapping that's applied to the object and not to the settings of each texture setting. Now I scale this box larger, and then I create a new material, tile 248, and I'm going to assign a new image. So I'm going to select this one right here, apply that to this object, and then I'm going to load it also on my bump map, same image, so I can see it in both. And then after that, I'm gonna apply a mapping, texture mapping, apply bounding box world. Yes, it's capped, so I'm gonna treat it like if it was a solid. And mapping channel, I'm gonna say it's 1, so enter. And now I scaled it. I want each tile to be a 12 by 12 tile. So after this, if I'm not getting the size that I wanted, I can show my mapping widget. So this is the button, show mapping widget, and then includes all reference objects. And then I'm gonna say yes. So now you can see how a dashed line appears around my object. If I move that my gumball now, you can see how it's an invisible box that is, as I move it, is affecting the way my material is mapped on each face. So what I would do in this case, I will treat it like if it was an actual object. I'm gonna move it from this corner, put it at the corner right here, and because it's using the overall size right now, so 1 2 3 4 tiles, 1 2 3 4 tiles that way. I can copy that box in here as a reference, and then this box, it is a 1, so I need that box or that extrusion to be, I need to scale this into like 2 times, so now it is a 24 by 24. So if each tile needs to be a 24 by 24, I'm sorry, each tile needs to be 12 inches. So that's the way that I want it to be. So I'm gonna create a guideline. I'm gonna change the C-plane. C-plane, surface, and then I'm gonna create a rectangle, or with the polyline. I'm gonna do it with the polyline instead. Standard polyline, and then I'm gonna say from this corner is going to be 48 inches that way, and then 48 inches going down, and then 48 inches, and then I'm gonna close it. So I can see that square that I created. I'm gonna change it to another layer so I can see it. So you can see that square that I created, and then from here, that will be my reference in order to scale my widget, so my mapping widget. So now I scaled up my mapping, well, I have selected my mapping widget, so you just try to click on that dash line, and then when you get the selection box or selection menu, select the widget, and then from here I'm gonna scale it, scale from here going down or going to this corner, and then I'm gonna scale it down. See how it's going and reducing the repeat of my mapping or the texture. Once I can snap to that object or that square that I created with curves, I click, and now it's being scaled. Now I can see how the box that I created right here just helps me as a visual guideline to make sure that the size of my texture is correct. And remember, from this image is the one that I just used, so it's a 48 by 48, so each module is 12 inches. Or each tile is 12 inches. Now if I have if to hide the mapping widget, I'm going to select it, go back to texture mapping, and then So left click is to show it, and right click on the mouse is to hide it. So once you're done, then you let go and then hide it, and now you're done mapping that object. Now if you have another object where you would like to match the properties of this, remember there is a match properties. Select the object to modify, so it's this one right here. Select the select the source, this one. So it will match mapping and texture and everything, all the properties for that object. Now if you've created is a displaced material, so I have this displacement material that I created. You can create a new displacement by create new and then more types, and then you navigate to the folder where you have that texture. So I'm going to use the same texture that I just loaded, and it's going to be the title 48. Open, so it's loaded, and if I show it now, I can see that it's there, but it's not the size that I want it to be. So basically I just need to copy the mapping. If you want to copy the mapping, you will select it, and then you will go to texture mapping tab. Make sure that you don't select it, sorry, I forgot that, and then click on this button right here, match texture mapping. Select the target object, so that's the object that I wanted to like map for the mapping only, and the source is this big box. Enter, and you can see how it changed that now to have the size of my mapping. I'm gonna reduce it so you can see how now it's getting it's a 12 by 12 tile, the one that it's using.